Okay guys, Thorzax and I'm back, and what I've done is I've set up my Redding small base resizing die here in my press. You know, I'm going to tell you something, this press doesn't look like much, but you know, she's got it where it counts. I mean, you know, it's almost like, you know, a good woman, you know. I mean, when you got a good woman, she's got it where it counts. I mean, that's it. That's the bottom line. I mean, you can have fancy frills, you can have a racy paint job, you can have a special design to it or whatever, but what it all boils down to, does it have it where it counts? Well, I'll tell you what, this is an old RCBS rock chucker that I've had for years. I bought it at a garage sale for 15 bucks, and this press will do anything that I need to do. It's really a great press. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is, you know, take the brass, I'm going to run it into the die, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check it against the datum line on my calipers. Okay? Now, here we go. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, our datum line on the caliper is, this is 1.711. Now, I checked the Lyman manual. The Lyman manual says 1.712. And let's see here now. We've got 1.711 right there. My datum line is all set up. This is properly headspaced for resizing the brass, so we're just going to go ahead and go with that. Yeah, thousands, whatever. You know, I mean, we're talking minute, you know, minute amounts here in a production chamber. So I'm not going to get all crazy about it. One thing that I wanted to kind of expand on, excuse me, is the use of trim dies. Now, for a lot of you guys out there that may have one of the little Redding or RCBS, you know, lathe type cutters, you know, you have the versatility in that one tool to do an awful lot of, you know, different calibers, which has, you know, that has some weight and merit to it. You know, I mean, it really does. However, if I can go ahead and show you something here. When you use, you know, this right here, this is your trim die. Okay, as you can see, you know, it's just flat here on the top. The way you use this is that you adjust it, okay, in your die on the datum line. Okay. All right. So when you insert brass in this, it'll set your datum line. It has to be set up that way because there's a certain amount of brass that's going to stick out over the top here on the neck that you need to remove with a file. So what we'll do, take our little piece of brass here, get it all greased up. Now, trim dies are extremely tight. You can't just go ahead and just put that in there, you know, bare bones. You've got to grease these. You know, you've got to use some you got to use some lubricant on them. Okay. Now, as you can see, that has a little bit sticking up over the top. And what I can do is I can take a file, just like that, and knock that edge down. Okay. And then what I do is I take my little chamfer here, and I add the chamfer to it. Okay, and I use the Lyman VLD angled reamer for the inside. It does a little bit better job. Does it make a difference? Probably not over that. You know, I mean, if you have one of these, they work fine. I just choose to use the other one. It's easier to use because, you know, it's pointed on the end and it just goes right into the case. Where this, you kind of got to, you know, manipulate it a little bit, you know, to put it in there and cut the chamfer. So what we're going to do is we're going to check our datum line as it came out of there. And as you can see, boom, we're there. See that? Huh? How about that, guys? So, but the neck has not been expanded. So, now you can just run the die in, okay? You don't even have to run it in this far. You know, I mean, I'm going to get set up to go ahead and full length resize, but at the same time, this is the only way that you can really expand by using the expander ball. And there you go. That case is cut to the proper length. It's been chamfered, and the neck has been expanded, and it's been put through a small base resizing die. This resizing die will ensure proper functioning in all rifles. That's why I use them. Now, if I had a particular die that resized brass with a little looser tolerance for, say, a production rifle that had a you know, a chamber dimension that I was trying to match in that way, you know, sure, I'd probably go ahead and use that die because it gives a tighter fit in the chamber. But also, you can fire form this brass and then just use neck sizing dies and just neck size it. You know, we're going to be firing this in bolt action rifle anyway. So, you know, it's not going to be for a semi-auto. I'll tell you what, this LC65 is some good brass, guys. I mean, don't sneer at it. I mean, just because it's military brass, don't sneer at it. It's really good stuff. It's very consistent. The neck thickness is very consistent. They did a really good job that year, you know, down there at Lake City. You know, they were fighting for their jobs, and they were fighting to keep the plant under federal management and not go with the whole thing about, you know, government-owned contractor operating. You know, you can tell where, you know, federal has went now. I mean, federal used to be, you know, really good stuff, and it still is. I mean, I'm not knocking it, you know, for store-bought ammunition, but federal has let their tolerances, you know, down, and they did that after they got the government contract. You know, they didn't really have to try that hard. You know, they had their government contract. They were making profit. You know, for their shareholders. That's all they cared about. You know, they don't really care about the customer. That is the truth. You know, you know, unless you go out and buy, you know, like Lapua brass or, you know, I had some bad experiences with some Norma brass that I bought. I'm not really a big fan of Norma brass. I'm not saying they make bad brass. It's just that I had some case stretching that was going on. I have a 7.5 by 55 Schmidt-Rubin, and after only like 3 firings on that Norma brass, it got to the point where I could see just a real bright, you know, stretch mark on the case head. So I abandoned using it. And funny thing is that I took 284 Winchester brass and I put that through the 7.5 by 55 Schmidt-Rubin die and formed 7.5 by 55 out of 7.5 by 55 Schmidt-Rubin out of 284 Winchester. And you know what? That stuff works great. I mean, it works great. And I'll tell you another thing too, man. The days of getting those rifles is over. I mean, they want like $400 for them, you know, Swiss K31s anymore. I think that's outrageous, you know. But they are, they're a battle rifle that think that they're a match rifle. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, the accuracy that you get out of those things is amazing. I mean, you know, you go ahead and load, you know, 168 grain match bullets and take it out to 200 yards and it's shooting less than an inch. You know, you're shooting, you know, 1/4 inch groups with a battle rifle that isn't bedded or anything. I mean, it's just I mean, the chambering on that thing, and the way that they set up the lead, and the way they set up the rifling, and all that stuff. You know, we have to remember one thing about the Swiss. When the Swiss goes out and qualifies, you know, with their rifles, their qualification starts at 300 yards. I mean, they shoot. You know, they shoot distance. They have special techniques over there that they you know, they teach their military, and they have opaque covers that they put over the front sight on their rifles. And what they do is they sight in on a target, on a black target out there. And what they do is they practice their trigger pull with the concentration being on the front sight instead of on the target. And they keep practicing that over and over and over and over and over again, so they're not looking at their target, they're looking at their front sight in order to aim the rifle. And you know, that is an excellent way to teach people how to shoot. You know, take away something definite that they're looking at and tell them to aim the gun and shoot closest to the middle of that object, and they'll do it every time. They'll do it every time because they'll concentrate on the sight and aim it. You know, you can't engrave from across the room. You can't read the paper from across the room. You got to bring those details up close if you want precision, you know. And that's the same way with a front sight and having it, you know, squared off in the rear sight and concentrating only on the front sight. So anyway, I'm going to continue to go ahead and resize all this brass. I'm going to get it all ready to go. I'm going to measure some of it, just kind of, you know, randomly, and go ahead and check my overall lengths. If they don't need to be cut, then I'm not going to cut them. But then, after I'm all done, they're going to go back into the tumbler. I'm going to go ahead and tumble them to remove, you know, all the case lube and all the lube that got into the primer pocket, you know, if there is any, you know, left over from the Imperial, you know, sizing die wax. And when they come out, I'll go ahead and dry them and then put them through the whole process of getting them ready to be primed and charge the cases. And there's also another thing I want to show you guys too. On the bullets, is that we can use our bullet comparator to separate into lots ogives, and we can set up the ogive on the Reading, you know, on the Reading, you know, competition die set, so that we can go off of the ogive and where we want the ogive to be. So that's real important when you're loading match bullets. You would not believe how much of a difference between you know, bullets have in the same box in the way that where the ogive is, and that has everything to do with how far forward or how far behind you are from the lands and grooves. And if you're trying to get into a certain zone there, you know, that can throw you off an awful lot. Just, you know, bullets out of the same box. So I'll show you guys how to sort them out. If you want to sort them out, you can sort them out. If you don't want to sort them out, then you don't have to sort them out. But, you know, having the proper tools, you know, available to you, you know, this has more than just one function. I mean, you know, you can measure bullets with it, you can measure brass with it, you can measure your overall lengths with it, you can do all of that. But you have to take in consideration, you got about a thousandths or so on the rim of the case that you have to take in consideration as manufacturing tolerance that you have to take in consideration there. So, you know, you kind of bounce around those numbers a little bit, but you want consistency. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish up here and get it all ready to go. We'll put it all back in the tumbler. We'll take them out of the tumbler and rinse them really good. Then we'll soak them in the whole floor wax and water thing so they don't tarnish. Get them all dried off, and then we'll prime them, and then we'll go ahead and we'll charge them, and then we'll start seating bullets. So here we go, and I'll be right back.